And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and this is 20 commanders that are just shockingly unpopular in the format. And I'm not exactly sure why on most of them. So I have an underwhelming commander series, as most people know. And a lot of times what I'll end up getting in, the suggestions that I get from people is commanders that I actually think are really, really good, but are just super unpopular for whatever reason. And I've done a lot of them on the video anyway, even though I think that they're pretty easy build arounds. The intention of the underwhelming commander series in the beginning was, here's a commander that, like, what do you do with it? It's a tough one. People can't really figure out how to build around that commander, but they want to, so I'm giving you some ideas to do so. I think of like Keho, Manamo Historian, and Zerlin of the Claw, both commanders that I did on my underwhelming commander series that I think are both actually really good commanders. I mean, they're both tutoring, which is fantastic in the format, and there's a lot of different ways you can go with them, but they're very unpopular for whatever reason. I mean, we kind of know what the reason is, right? A lot of it is they get buried by more popular commanders. They are kind of older, and maybe a lot of people don't know they exist, so maybe it is a good thing that I talk about commanders like this on my underwhelming commanders videos. And all of the commanders I'm talking about today, I have not done on my underwhelming commanders videos, and I'm probably not gonna. These are all commanders that I think are all pretty good and pretty obvious build arounds, and so I'm probably not ever gonna touch them in my underwhelming commanders videos, but I'm shocked at how unpopular they are. So starting out at number 20 is Muzio Visionary Architect, 1 blue, human artificer, 1/3. Pay 3 and a blue. Tap. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the highest converted mana cost. Among artifacts you control, you may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. That's a great ability. You could build a pretty fantastic mono blue artifacts deck with this. I suppose this is why this commander isn't very popular, though, because it's a monocolored commander. That's always going to hurt commander's popularity. It's such a neat ability. I remember when this guy first came out, I saw it quite a bit, and then, fizzled out pretty quickly. Only currently has 186 decks on EDH Rec. And just to give a little bit of comparison here, so, if you don't spend a lot of time on EDH Rec like I do, Atraxa Praetor's Voice, currently the most popular commander in the format, once again, has 8,817 decks. That's quite a big difference from 186, right? Now, of course, that's number one, but if we look at the rank 100 commander, it's a Nala Archmage Ritualist, which has 2,465, right? That's rank 100, just to give you a comparison so that going forward, when I talk about the amount of decks these commanders have, you guys will have a reference point to compare it to. So coming in at number 19, Zira Arian, and I never know how to say that one. Black, green, and a red, Insect Wizard 1/2 with flying, and you can pay black, green, and red, and tap. Target player draws a card. I'm really shocked this isn't more popular. Only has 209 decks on EDH Rec, and I have had this one requested on my Underwhelming Commanders video. It didn't quite make it into the top 3, and if it had, I mean, I don't even know what I would do. There's so much you can do here, right? That's why I think this commander should be a lot more popular. Just having a commander that you can pay and tap and draw a card is pretty good, right? So it fits as a commander for any strategy you want to do in Jund colors. Just have a commander that draws you a card seems pretty good. Also, it's an insect and a wizard. You could do insect tribal. You could do a Jund wizard tribal, maybe, would be interesting. There's a lot of things you could do here. I'm actually surprised it's not more popular. Maybe it's because there isn't a very specific strategy you want to go down, I guess. Next up, we got Lin Civi Defiant Hero. 1 white human rebel, 1/3. Pay X and tap. Search your library for a rebel permanent card with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And you can pay 3 to put target rebel card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. So again, we have a commander that is tutoring. That's always good. This is one that was a little bit more popular when I first started playing. I did see Lin Civi decks from time to time. Only currently has 209 decks on EDH Rec. There's also combo potential here for people that don't know. There's a lot more changelings in the format now that you can go get with your Lin Civi if you want to. Just really surprised this one isn't more popular. There's actually quite a few options here, and it's a really powerful ability. Coming in at number 17, Gerard Weatherlight Hero. 2 red and a white human soldier, 3/3 with first strike. When Gerard Weatherlight Hero dies, exile it and return to the battlefield all artifacts and creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. And I know people will say, well, hey, Demo, you have a Gerard deck. Yes, I do, and I'm still shocked at how unpopular it is. Only has 240 decks on EDH Rec. When I first saw this commander, when it was first spoiled, I thought, okay, well, that's probably going to be a popular commander. I think think the build around there is pretty obvious because you just put a lot of board wipes in your deck, right? I guess that's not super fun. And the deck I built, I sort of got away from the constant board wipes a little bit. I mean, it's incredible value, right? I just cast an Akroma's Vengeance. Everyone's artifacts and creatures get destroyed, and then I get to put mine all back into play. And then if those creatures that come back into play have ETBs, which in my deck they do, I get all that value as well. I just thought that was a great game plan, and I win a lot with that deck, and nobody else seemed interested in that. I did go a little bit away from the constant board wipe thing because that is a little unfun, but man, I got a great super value-y deck that I win a lot with. I can't believe this guy isn't more popular. Coming in at number 16, Asperia the Inscrutable. 1 white, blue. Sphinx, 3/6 with flying. When Asperia the Inscrutable deals combat damage to a player, name a card. That player reveals their hand. If they reveal the named card, search your library for a creature card with flying. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. There's so much going on here. This is such an interesting commander. I mean, first of all, you could do Sphinx Tribal with this. I know there already is a Sphinx Tribal commander, but it's mono blue. You want white to sort of get some of those other Sphinxes in the deck. A lot of the really good ones are white and blue. So you can do Sphinx Tribal with this. Obviously, the Sphinxes are probably going to have flying. I think they all have flying. So you can do that as well. Obviously, go get more Sphinxes out of your deck. But this is again, you're doing the tutor thing, and I know I'm hammering on that a little bit, but man, that is really good. It is a little limiting in that you have to know what's in your opponent's hand, but that's a real easy build around. In fact, you don't even have to build around it at all. You can just connect with your opponent, look at what's in their hand, and then the next time you connect, you just write down what's in their hand, and then you get to pick a card that you already looked at, so you know you're going to get it right. And then you go get a creature out of your deck with flying, and there's a lot of really great creatures with flying that can be answers for stuff. Asperia currently only has 175 decks. I used to have an Asperia deck myself. It really is a super fun commander to build around. Coming in at number 15, Ulash the Hate Seed. 2 red and a green, Hellion Hydra 0/0. Enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other red creature you control, and a +1/+1 counter on it for each other green creature you control. Pay 1 and remove a counter to have it deal 1 damage to target creature, or create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Currently only 214 decks on EDH Rec. That's shocking. Again, this is one that I saw a little bit more back in the day when I first started playing, but there's just so much going on here. I mean, you can do Hydra Tribal, but I guess now it's been completely trumped by other Hydra commanders, so I guess maybe you're not going to want to do Hydra Tribal necessarily, although there are a fair amount of Hydras in red and green and red that you maybe won't be able to include in those other decks. But also, you're doing counters, you're dealing damage with your commander, you're making sapling tokens. So many directions you can go here, and this is such an interesting commander. I can't believe it doesn't have more decks. Coming in at number 14, Zareth San the Trickster. And regular viewers of my channel know that I've brought this one up in the past before. 3 blue and a black, Merfolk Rogue 4/4 with Flash. 2 blue and a black. Return an unblocked attacking rogue you control to owner's hand. Put Zareth San the Trickster from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So essentially it's rogue ninjutsu, right? Whenever Zareth San deals combat damage to a player, you may put target permanent card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That is such a powerful ability and an interesting one, a fun one. Everyone loves stealing their opponent's stuff and playing their stuff. I'm shocked. This only has 186 decks on EDH Rec. I've said this multiple times that I'm shocked how unpopular this is. It's sort of doing everything that people really like typically in a commander game. And people have said to me, oh, well, you can't do the rogue jitsu from the command zone. I mean, so what? You don't need it at all. Your commander has flash, so you can flash it in when, you see an opportunity that one of your opponents doesn't have a blocker. That's when you flash it in. Now you can start going to work. And I mean, geez, is there any ways to make your commander unblockable in the format? I mean, there's 1,000, right? So to me, that doesn't really hold it back a whole lot. And you're getting any permanent out of their graveyard. You can get enchantments, artifacts, anything. I just can't believe how unpopular this commander is. Coming in at number 13, Whisper Blood Liturgist. 3 and a black, human cleric 2/2. Tap, sacrifice 2 creatures, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And again, only 186 decks on EDH Rec. And this one I had brought up by a patron. They're like, why is this commander so unpopular? And I was like, geez, I don't know. And that sort of became the inspiration for this video. You have a commander that is recursion. You also have a commander that is a sack outlet, which is good. So you're doing sacrificing, you're doing recursion from your graveyard. I mean, honestly, this is not a commander that I would love to build build around. I'm not saying that necessarily all these commanders are fantastic commanders that I personally love to build around. I'm just shocked they're not more popular because there's so much here you can do, and it's doing a lot of things that people normally like. I sacrifice creatures. I'm recurring giant creatures or whatever from my graveyard is something that a lot of players like to build around, and nobody seems to be building around this commander, and I'm not sure why. Coming in at number 12, Grenzo Havoc Razor. Red and a red, Goblin Rogue 2/2. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, go target creature that player controls, or exile a top card of that player's library until end of turn. You may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. So this has a 307 decks on EDH Rec. It's one of the most popular ones on this list, but still, only 300 decks. This is a really interesting, fun commander. Again, it's doing things that people really like. Goading, playing off the top of your opponent's library. It's doing lots of great stuff like that. It's any creature you control dealing combat damage, so you can just have your Grenzo sit there while you throw goblin tokens at your opponents and goad all their stuff. I've played against this deck a few times. It is really difficult to play against. He is actually probably one of the most powerful commanders on this entire list. I can't believe how unpopular he is. I don't get it. I mean, maybe there's better goblin tribal commanders, but you don't have to do goblins here. There's no goblin tribal here at all, other than the fact that your commander's a goblin. In fact, rogue tribal would probably be better because rogues are sort of better at getting in for damage and stuff like that. Shockingly unpopular. Seriously, like I don't get it at all. Coming in at number 11, and this is an old one, Adun Oakenshield. Green, red, and a black 1/2. Human Knight, and you can pay black, red, and a green and tap. Return target creature from your graveyard or your hand. Now, this one is an expensive card. It's old, so it's expensive, but there's easy ways around that, obviously. I mean, I'm not sure if that's a reason what that's making this commander unpopular. It currently only has 106 decks on EDH Rec. You know, is that playing a part in it? Are people going, man, I'd like to build an Adun Oakenshield deck, but it's an expensive card, so that's why I'm not doing it? That's possible. You know, I've used this commander a couple times for decks because it's sort of, again, that commander that is very open-ended that you can do a lot with. You can very much build around that ability of return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. One of the decks that I made with this, I had one of my favorite cards, Carrionet, in the deck. And even though it is mana intensive, it's really fun to activate your Carrionet's ability to exile an opponent's creature. And then in response, you use your commander's ability, return the Carrionet to your hand, so that when Carrionet's ability resolves, it's no longer in the graveyard, so it doesn't get exiled. But you're still exiling your opponent's creature. Mana intensive combo, but pretty neat. I mean, there's a lot you can do here. You know, it's a Jund graveyard deck, I guess. I mean, I'm just really surprised this isn't more popular. It's really unpopular. Getting into the top 10, Endrixar Master Breeder. 4 and a black human wizard 2/2. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create X 1/1 black thrall creature tokens, where X is the spell's mana value. When you control 7 or more thralls, sacrifice Endrixar Master Breeder. So, of course, that second ability is never an issue because you're going to be in a sacrifice theme, and whenever you get too many thralls, you're just going to sacrifice them so that you never actually get to 7. This has only 332 decks on EDH Rec. It is the most popular out of the bunch here, which isn't saying much. But man, really powerful ability. There's a lot you can do here. I mean, if you're in a sacrifice theme, this might be the best commander, I guess, in mono black. If you want more colors, I think that's a big part, is a lot of people just want more colors when they're in a sacrifice theme. But there's just so much you can do here. There's some really powerful Endrixar decks out there. I mean, you could make a very casual, fun, interesting deck with this. You could also make a very high-powered deck with this as well. So the fact that it has a wide range, too, is really surprising that it's not more popular. Coming in at number 9, Prime Speaker Zagana, and another one that I saw quite a bit more when I first started playing, and I never see it anymore. It only has 271 decks currently on EDH Rec. 2 green, green, blue, blue, Merfolk Wizard 1/1. Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. When Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to its power. So even if you just have like a 3/3 token sitting in play, your Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield, gets 3 counters on it, and then you draw 4 cards. So 6 mana for a 4/4 and draw 4 cards is pretty darn good. And that's like obviously worst case scenario almost. And I think, the reason why this has sunk drastically in popularity, I'm sure it was way over 1,000 decks a few years ago, is because they just really are doing the same thing in Simic a lot. There's just so many commanders in Simic that are drawing cards, doing counters, stuff like that there's just so many more options. And this has been completely buried because those other options are probably better ones, I guess. I mean, I have a Tishana deck, right? And that only has 329 decks on EDH Rec. Again, also shockingly unpopular for a commander that can draw you a ton of cards. Prime Speaker Zagana is even more unpopular. I remember when I made my Tishana deck, Prime Speaker Zagana was way more popular. And I originally wanted to use her for that deck idea, and then Tishana came out and I'm like, oh great, I can use her instead. And now Tishana is more popular, which is funny. Really has sunk in popularity, but this one I think might be the, Simic has just so many commanders that are doing that kind of thing that might be the issue. Coming in at number 8 is Nyalur, and this is another one that I guess it's shocking how unpopular it is, but this one I kind of get it a little bit because I talked about this when I did my top commanders from Forgotten Realms. So 2 white, blue, and a black. Horror 3/5. When Nyalur enters the battlefield, for each opponent tap up to 1 untapped creature you control. When you do, gain control of target creature that player controls with power less than or equal to the tapped creature's power for as long as you control Nyalur, and whenever you attack with a creature an opponent owns, you gain 2 life and that player loses 2 life. Only 294 decks on EDH Rec. This one isn't super shocking because, as I said in that video, you're stealing your opponent's creatures, and a lot of people don't like that. And when you have a commander in the command zone that people know you're going to be stealing their stuff, it kind of makes you a target right out of the gate, so it makes people not want to build that deck. That might be playing a part here. Still, I thought there would be more than 294 decks from this guy. It's a very interesting ability. A lot of people don't care, right? Goading is another thing people don't like. Playing your opponent's stuff. This is stuff that people typically don't like, but a lot of players are like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care, right? So I thought there was going to be a lot more players out there that are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do that anyway, even though I know people won't like having their stuff stolen. I'm going to make this deck anyway because it's a really interesting commander. I really actually wish this commander was more popular because I think it's really interesting. Coming in at number 7, Sereth the Viper's Fang. 2 green, human warlock 3/4. Other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. That's pretty good. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. Also really good. And you can pay 1 and untap another target creature or land you control. This currently only has 203 decks on EDH Rec. Shocking. I don't get it. There's just so much you can do here. 3 really great abilities. You can build around all of them or a few of them. Only 2, maybe only 1. A lot of directions you can go. I had this in my top 10 commanders from Midnight Hunt. I can't believe how unpopular it is. I might have to tackle this myself. I mean, I already have a mono green deck. I guess I could have him make another one. Funny thing is I have this in my mono green deck. My Questing Beast deck, Sereth is a fantastic fit in that deck because my commander is untapped all the time because it has Vigilance. So it's always going to have Hexproof. So it's a great fit there. And I talked about this in my commanders that are better in the 99. And yes, I think Sereth is better in the 99. It goes in a ton of decks in my opinion, but also is a pretty good commander. I'm really shocked this one doesn't have more decks. Coming in at number 6, Sapling of Kolfenar. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that probably didn't even know this commander existed. 3 and 2 hybrid black-green mana. So 5 mana total, Treefolk Shaman, 2/5. Indestructible. So already you have a commander that is indestructible. That's fantastic. And in Golgari colors, you're not going to see that very often, right? But also, whenever it attacks, reveal a top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal that card's toughness, lose life equal to its power, and put it into your hand. So there's just so many ways to go with this, right? I mean, obviously, because of that ability, you are leaning towards creatures with big butts, right? Your commander's a tree folk, so obviously the direction I think a lot of people think to go here is tree folk tribal, right? Because a lot of tree folk have big butts, so you're going to gain more life than you're losing. But also it's card advantage, right? Whenever your commander attacks, if you have a creature on top, you get to draw it. That's fantastic. Also, by the way, is not drawing, so you can work around that as well. Having an indestructible commander. I have a couple patrons with Sapling of Kolfenar decks. I've played against both of them, and man, just having a commander that sits there for the whole game, giving you value by getting stuff off the top. You can build around the life gain, life loss thing as well. You are gaining life on almost any of your turns, so something like a Witch of the Moor yours, again, is a fantastic fit because you're going to get that trigger. Only 193 decks on EDH Rec. I can't believe it. This is such an interesting commander. Lots of value. Golgari are really popular colors. Maybe that's hurting it, I guess? I don't know. A lot of people think of black and green as like graveyard decks and stuff. That's really not the case at all. It is really all over the place with what it's doing. This is a perfect example of it. And there is multiple very interesting ways you could go with this commander. I just can't believe it's not more popular. Coming in at number 5, and another one that I have mentioned on my channel several times that I cannot believe how unpopular it is Shale, Dean of Radiance. 1 and a white, bird cleric, 1/1. Flying Vigilance. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So that's pretty good, but as I've said many times before, the backside is just so much better. Ambrose, Dean of Shadow, 2 black, human warlock, 4/4. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature. Right, so that can be obviously yours or your opponent's creatures. Then Ambrose deals 2 damage to that creature. That in itself is just such a interesting, unique ability where you can be putting counters on your own creatures. Assuming their toughness is more than 2, you're not going to kill them. If you have an opponent who has a 1 toughness creature, you can put a counter on it and then kill it. There's just a lot of neat things you can do with that ability. But then on top of that, whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. And like I say all the time, if you have a commander that has an ability that draws you a card, that's going to be a great commander to build around. You know, card draw is one of the most important things in this format. And when it's stapled on your commander, takes out of the building process having to worry about that, right? Because your commander is going to be doing it for you. This has only 77 decks on EDH Rec. Shocking. It is the most unpopular commander on this list by quite a wide margin. I don't get it. There's just a lot of really neat things going on here. There's a lot of different ways you can build this deck. Like once you get under 100 decks on EDH Rec, it becomes a commander that you might never ever see, right? You might never ever in your entire life or your entire existence of playing Commander play against an Ambrose deck. That's how unpopular this guy is. I mean, it's incredible. And I think it's such an interesting commander to build around. I mean, I'm only talking about the Ambrose side. You even could build around the Shale side as well if you want to, right? You have 2 options here. So the fact that you have 2 options, 2 directions to go with this commander, and it's still that unpopular, wow. Coming in at number 4, another one that I just do not get. Grazilax, Illithid Scholar, 1 blue, horror, 3/2. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to owner's hand. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Man, I don't get it. This is one that I thought when I first saw it spoiled in Forgotten Realms, I thought this is going to be one that a lot of people are going to go after. Again, you're drawing cards, but also that first ability is really fantastic where you can just throw your creatures at your opponents, and if they block and you don't want them to die, you can return them to your hand. It's a really fun, interesting combat tricks commander in mono blue. I went a ninjutsu route. I actually did this on my channel. It was the first deck tech that I did from Forgotten Realms because I was like, wow, what an exciting, interesting commander to build around. And I immediately jumped on it and made a deck super quick. Only 231 decks on EDH Rec right now. I don't get it. I think it's a really interesting, fun commander. You're drawing cards. It's very easy in blue to be getting in for damage with like unblockable creatures and stuff like that. You can do the ninjutsu thing. You can do a lot of different things here. I'm really shocked it's not more popular. Coming in at number 3, Kogla the Titan Ape. 3 green, ape, 7/6. When Kogla the Titan Ape enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. That's pretty good. Whenever Kogla attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. That's really good. And you can play 1 and a green, return target human you control to its owner's hand. Kogla gains indestructible until end of turn. So again, now we have a way to make our commander indestructible, which is always good. There's just so much fantastic stuff going on here. People like mono green. I know a lot of monocolored commanders are on this list, and people shy away from monocolored commanders because you're very limited in what you're doing. But mono green is one of the colors that people don't shy away from as much because mono green has a lot of options. One of the options it doesn't have so much is creature removal, and your commander is doing that. Your commander is creature removal. Assuming the creature you want to kill is toughness 7 or less, your commander is creature removal. Your commander is also artifact and enchantment removal. You can also bounce a human to your hand that you can reuse, like an Eternal Witness. That's a pretty good one to reuse, right? It gains indestructible, so it protects against board wipes. There's so much going on here. You know, I might tackle a couple of these on the list. As I was doing the research for this video, I'm like, what? Why is that so unpopular? This is one that I might have to revisit because I think it's a great commander. It's versatile. It's doing a lot of different things. It's an answer in the command zone, which I really like. I mean, I suppose it's a little Voltron-y, and people have been shying away from Voltron decks of recent. Maybe that's why a lot of people don't like it, because they assume you're just doing a Voltron strategy. I don't think you have to do that at all. I mean, you can. Your commander has a 7 power, so that's a 3-hit kill. But I think there's a lot of ways you can go with this. Only has 272 decks currently on EDH Rec, which is really surprising, I think. Coming in at number 2, and both of the top 2 commanders are Izzet commanders, and I'm not sure if there's a reason for that, but both of them I am absolutely shocked how unpopular they are. Maybe Izzet has so many super powerful commanders that's everyone goes in that direction. Thanos, Urza's Apprentice, blue and a red, human artificer 1/3 with haste. Pay blue and a red and tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets for the copy. That is a very powerful ability. It's incredibly open-ended. It is an activated or triggered ability from an artifact source. Man, I can't even imagine the amount of ways you can go with this. I mean, we're talking about any artifact in the history of the game that has either a triggered or activated ability, which is pretty much all of them. You can't target mana abilities, I guess. Oh well, you know, I mean, I cast a Solemn Simulacrum. When it enters the battlefield, that's a triggered ability. I can copy it, go get another land. When it dies, I can copy that, draw another card. I have a Staff of Nin maybe, right? So at the beginning of my upkeep, I can copy that draw ability to draw another card, or I can copy the activated ability of it dealing damage if I want to deal more damage. I mean, I'm just spitballing here. That the amount of ways you can go with this commander is incredible. It only has 181 decks on EDH Rec. What? This one really is shocking for me. It is possible that in the Izzet theme, people are expecting to build, you know, instant and sorcery like Spellslinger type decks. There's obviously tons of support. There's lots of support for artifacts in Izzet colors too, like Joyer, for example, one of the most popular Izzet commanders. I mean, it's a very different build than Thanos, but still, Joyer has 3,208 decks on EDH Rec. 3,200. Thanos has 181. Like, that is shocking. I just can't believe this guy isn't more popular. Again, the only reason I can think is, you know, people just don't want to do that in Izzet colors. They want to go the Spellslinger route, maybe. But then that makes my number 1 pick a lot more confusing. Rutha, Mercurial Artist. 1 blue and a red. Orc, Shaman, 1/4. Pay 2. Return Rutha, Mercurial Artist to owner's hand. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. I had this very high on my Strixhaven commanders ranking, which there was a lot of fantastic commanders from that set, and I had it pretty high on there. This is another one that I think I've already mentioned on my channel that I am shocked how unpopular it is. It only has 213 decks on EDH Rec. You want to play a Spellslinger's theme, this is a great commander for it. I get there are better ones, like Niv Mizzet obviously is just so busted and ridiculously powerful that I guess people will lean towards that, but maybe doing something a little more interesting, right? You're copying instants and sorceries for 2 mana. That can be really, really good, right? I mean, maybe people don't like the I have to return it to my hand thing because that slows down the combo potential, but to me, that makes it a more fair, interesting commander that isn't going to make you, you know, if you have a commander that's just going to, oh, I can just infinitely combo off with it, like, how is that a good thing? That just makes you a target right out of the gate, and nobody's going to want to play against your deck in a casual game. The limiting part on Rutha, I think, is what makes it a better commander and a more interesting one. I mean, this one really is surprising for me. I'm going to make a list sometime in the future about commanders I was wrong about, because apparently everyone likes finding out the cards that I'm wrong about. And this is going to be on that list because, again, I'm shocked here. I thought this was going to be a really popular commander, and it is not at all. Really, really surprising. But that is it. That is all. 20 commanders that, for me, are just shockingly unpopular. I know the comments are going to be filled with people telling me what the specific reason each of these individual commanders are unpopular. That is fine. Let me know in the comments below. You know, some of them I get it a little bit. A lot of them are just like, wait, what? What's going on here? Why is this so unpopular? A lot of times it gets buried by more popular commanders. A lot of times it depends on when it gets released. Like, for example, Shale and Embrose, I think that one, and possibly Rutha as well, it got released with that whole Strixhaven C21, just absolute buried under fantastic commanders. So that might play into it a little bit. I encourage people to revisit some of these, right? go back, and a lot of people probably will watch this video, and I know a lot of people watch my videos who want to play those more unpopular commanders. Here's a whole bunch. These are 20 really great commanders, in my opinion, that are incredibly unpopular. I mean, under 300 decks on EDH Rec means you might not ever see them in a commander game. That's how unpopular they can be. So here's some options for you if you guys want to go run and do that as well. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.